Good morning and welcome to UCEA Google Plus Hangouts on Air. This is Amy Reynolds, Graduate Research Assistant and Doctoral Student at UCEA Headquarters at the University of Virginia. I'm here today to interview Casey Cobb as a part of his candidacy for the UCEA Executive Committee. Today, listeners will be hearing from Casey Cobb, an Associate Dean and Professor of Educational Leadership at the Neag School of Education. Dr. Cobb's current research interests include policies on school choice, accountability, and school reform, where he examines the implications for equity and educational opportunity. Welcome, Dr. Cobb.
Good morning, Amy. Good to be here with you.
Thank you. Let's begin with the first question. Please tell us about your background and your scholarship as it relates to leadership preparation and practice.
Well, it probably makes sense to start where I am now and then kind of work backwards a little bit. I'm currently the Associate Dean for Academic Affairs at the Neag School of Education, which is at the University of Connecticut. Previously I was a department head of educational leadership here at the Neag School for 4 years. I came to UConn in 2003 as a assistant professor in ed leadership and taught courses in our principal preparation program, in our superintendent preparation program, and also our doctoral program, which at the time was solely an EDD. So I've been involved in advising students that are current practitioners who seek their EDD, as well as students who seek positions in higher ed and academia with a leadership and policy background. I've also been involved as department head in launching new programs in our ed preparation fields. That includes a residency-based program for principal preparation, and also a Hartford program, which is Hartford, Connecticut, is a partner district with us, and we worked with them to establish a cohort specific to their context. And finally, I've been involved in the redesign of our EDD through the Carnegie Project for the Education Doctorate, or CPED, and that's been going on now for about 4 years.
Okay, excellent, thank you. And the next question. You have served for several years as the plenary session representative. Tell us about your engagement in UCEA's governance.
Yes, well, I've been involved in UCEA for a while now. Been a plenum rep for the past 3 years. I've also been a Jackson Scholar mentor for the past 3 years, and also participated in some other activities to serve UCEA, such as the Edwin Bridges Award Selection Committee and the Jack Culbertson Early Career Award Selection Committee. I've also currently, I'm the editor-in-chief of EAQ, so to the extent that EAQ represents UCA and their policies and mission, I guess you could say I've been involved, tangentially in the governance of UCEA.
Okay, thank you. And the next question, in what other ways have you been engaged in UCEA?
I've been a regular attendee. I've always loved the conference. My first conference was actually in 2000 when I was a early career assistant professor at the University of New Hampshire, and I've gone pretty much ever since. Particularly in the last decade, I've been a regular presenter. I've always tried to review proposals for the conference. Recently, I've presented on invited panels. Last year I was invited to present on a mentoring panel for assistant professors who were seeking promotion and tenure. Thoroughly enjoyed that process. I really enjoy helping mentor or develop new faculty. So through work with the Jackson Scholar Program or these mentoring panels, it's very satisfying. I've also had a chance to attend some of the leadership modules that the UCA had sponsored more recently. Attended one on advocacy, leadership, and another on race, and those have been invaluable to me personally, but also have been able to use some of that knowledge and training to help develop and enhance our own programming here in University of Connecticut. Other ways I tried to be really involved in UCA at one point. It was probably five years ago that I led an effort here at University of Connecticut to host the organization. And we were a finalist. We weren't selected, but it was a great experience getting to know members of the EC and other members of the UCEA, learning more about the organization and how they worked with partner universities. And then about 2.5 years ago, decided to apply for the editorship of EAQ, and we were successful, and that's been a terrific experience for our faculty here as well as our colleagues that are also on the editorial team from across the country, all UCEA members. So I really believe in this organization and would love to continue to be involved.
Okay, fantastic, thank you. And the next question. Discuss with us your scholarship, research projects, teaching, and/or service that can inform the work of UCEA, particularly the work of the Executive Committee.
Well, I think a lot of my work has been in the realm of policy studies with an eye towards the implications for school leaders. And so a lot of my work, research in the past, has been in school settings or district settings, examining the implementation of new policies, whether they be from federal, state, local policies, and their consequences on stakeholders and constituents in those settings, with an eye towards the implications for equity and social justice. That work has been consistent throughout my career, and I think I take that lens into most of the work I do, so I could see me having that perspective and providing some advocacy on the executive committee with equity of opportunity in mind and promoting social justice through leadership and school reform and policies on education. The executive committee does work at a very sort of big picture level and high level, and I've begun to do that now formally as a department chair, but now more so as a associate dean, recently attending a cadre meeting, which is a council for deans of research institutions across the country, and it's placed me in a setting where you really can have a direct influence on policies, whether they be the ISLIC standards, new CAPE accreditation processes, revamping of Title II guidelines. So I just see me extending that work with the executive committee. I think I'd like to, I'd also like to see my work in research also having a bearing on the work of the EC, potentially. Recently done work on educator evaluation, which includes the evaluation of administrators and, of course, their role, administrators' role in evaluating teachers and other staff in school settings. And I think that the notion of evaluation and accountability is very prominent these days at all levels, including in higher education. And I think the more knowledge we have about how best to evaluate the effectiveness of educators, including administrators and schools and districts, then we'll be in a better position as an organization to influence policies in those arenas. Because if we're not well informed about what the research says about accountability policies and evaluation protocols, then we could go down some roads that won't serve schools well.
Okay, thank you very much. And we'll close with one last question today. Please share the reasons why you have chosen to run for the executive committee and your vision for the future of UCEA.
Sure. Well, I've chosen to run because I really strongly believe in this organization and its ability to effect positive change. Honestly, I think it's fairly rare for an organization of that size to kind of move the needle, if you will, on some key areas. And I think UCA has really promoted a social justice perspective that has been tangible throughout the organization and its faculty, and I think it's also strongly influenced the leadership preparation of our school administrators through its research-based programming and its advocacy roles, its scholarly pursuits, whether through its many journals, dissemination through UCA newsletters. It's just a very well-run, influential organization with good people with good intentions. So that I'd like to be a part of that. My vision for the future of UCA probably includes continuing on its trajectory, which is to really be a main player in influencing policy, not only in educational leadership preparation, but also in school reform more broadly. I think UCA has, yes, its focus is on educational administrators, but it also has a major influence on education policy, and that's evidenced in the research and the conference programs that we see every year that are devoted to policies that bear upon leadership activities and, of course, schools activities as well. I guess one thing that I can bring, perhaps unique, or at least some things that I believe in, is the idea of defining leadership a little bit differently than maybe what it has been through UCA. Not that these ideas in leadership haven't been considered before or talked about at UCA, but perhaps promoting them more explicitly. And what I mean by that is, I think a lot of us, me included, look at educational administrators as single individuals with certain titles: principal, assistant principal, superintendent. But there are myriad ways to conceive of leadership, and that includes teacher leaders. There are so many more positions now and roles that districts have created out of need, whether they be coaches for literacy coaches or math coaches, or data team leaders, PLC, professional learning community facilitators, quasi-administrators, teacher leaders. It runs the gamut. There's also new versions of leadership that haven't been given a lot of attention, and that includes sort of team-based leadership. In our field, we know a lot about distributed leadership, but we don't know a lot about sort of team-based leadership, whether it be district teams or school teams. And so I think UCA is in a great position to start expanding or redefining the definition of leadership to not for the sake of expanding, but for the sake of including and honoring the leaders that are out there that may not have the formal titles and beyond the the individual traditional titles. I guess just in closing, I really strongly again endorse UCA and its mission. I think I could bring a perspective on partnerships that is consistent with UCA's mission in being collaborative and partnering with other organizations, whether it be state, federal, or other agencies. The work we've done at University of Connecticut and partnering with specific school districts to promote and develop new leaders in those districts is an example. Also, beginning to partner now more with community-based organizations that work with schools, such that the partnerships are expanding beyond just the educational institutions. My role as an associate dean now includes overseeing accreditation. So I've been to NCAID, or now it's CAPE meetings. There's a new CAPE process, a lot of discussion around the ISLIC standards and state's role in accreditation. I think I can bring that larger policy perspective to the EC. But I thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you for your time and thoughtful responses, Dr. Cobb. This interview will be archived on the UCEA Google Plus page and on the UCEA YouTube channel. Listeners can access or share the interview at any time. We also encourage listeners to post comments and questions on this interview in the comment section on the UCEA Google Plus page. Please stay tuned in for our next UCEA Executive Committee interview with Dr. Liz Hollingwick. Thank you, and bye-bye.